You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Diana DeGette loses primary race to upstart Democratic Socialist Melat Kiros, based on an article by Benito L. Kelty. Primary elections are not confusion, they are purges. The result, Rep. Diana DeGette, a nearly 30-year incumbent, lost her Democratic primary to Melat Kiros, a lawyer and Democratic Socialist who won more than 49% of the vote. That is the only fact pattern that matters. Before the punditry starts sanding down the edges, a long-entrenched officeholder was denied renomination by voters in her own party, who had the power. The actual power here sat with the primary electorate, not the incumbent, and not the commentary class trying to turn the loss into a generic story about extremes. DeGette did not fall to chaos. She fell to a decision made inside the nomination system that parties themselves built and keep feeding. That matters because primary defeats are often treated like weather. They are not. They are judgments. They tell you which factions control access to office, and which political identities now carry more force than seniority, committee memory, or institutional loyalty. The framing trap. The source text reaches for a familiar dodge that places progressive challengers and Trump-endorsed Republicans in the same sentence, as if ideological motion is the main story and power is just a byproduct. That framing is lazy at best. It blurs very different political projects into one cartoon about more extreme wings, which is exactly how elite coverage avoids saying who is actually driving the outcome. No one forced these incumbents out by accident. Brad Lander, Dariel Zaravilla Chevalier, and the Trump-backed challengers to John Cornyn and Bill Cassidy were not weather events either. They were instruments of organized factions using the nomination process to replace older loyalty with sharper discipline. What the numbers say. The broader tally in the source cuts against any cheap, one-party morality play. 8 U.S. House incumbents have already lost their nomination this cycle, along with 2 senators. At the state level, 22 Democratic incumbents have lost primaries compared with 76 Republicans. That gap matters. It suggests 2 things at once. First, Republican primaries are being used with far more brutality against incumbents, which is consistent with a party that has normalized loyalty tests and factional enforcement. Second, Democratic primaries are also serving as a venue for insurgent challenge, especially from the left, even if the scale is smaller. In both parties, incumbency is no longer a shield when the base wants a cleaner ideological line or a different brand of obedience. Incumbency is not innocence. DeGette's defeat should not be read as a mystery of voter mood. It is a symptom of what happens when long service becomes its own liability. Once a party's internal incentives reward confrontation, identity, or factional purity more than accumulated power, senior lawmakers become easy targets. Their experience does not protect them. It advertises them as part of the problem. That is the hidden logic of these primary upsets. They are not just rebellions against individuals. They are acts of internal party remodeling. Voters and activists are not merely choosing a nominee. They are deciding what kind of political machine gets to keep operating. The real pattern. The larger pattern is not polarization, which is the word used when analysts want to sound alarmed without assigning responsibility. The pattern is that party institutions are increasingly failing to defend their own incumbents from factional takeover, while media coverage keeps describing those takeovers as abstract ideological drift. That is misdirection. The real story is organizational power. Who can mobilize a primary electorate? Who can convert grievance into nomination? And who gets cast out when seniority stops being useful? DeGette's loss is one more reminder that American parties are not stable governing coalitions. They are contested machinery, and the people who control the machine are increasingly willing to sacrifice experience for sharper factional control. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Ross Story for today's article, with the automated voice of John. Thanks for listening.